Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the Podcast Mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Phil Better, the Podcast Mogul, and I am so happy to introduce our guest today. They are an entrepreneur and digital marketing expert who focuses on bringing results to clients and students by researching and applying the latest marketing and sales funnel techniques that work. He also works on providing value through his personal YouTube channel about the latest marketing approaches and strategies, as well as connecting with fellow entrepreneurs and business owners in his Facebook group, Facebook Ad Secrets. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Hernan Vazquez. Hernan, thank you so much for being here.
Hey everyone. Hey Phil, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
So Hernan, I talked a bit about how you're a digital marketer. You love looking at marketing techniques, studies, and all that. But let's go back to the very beginning. Boom, we're back. X number of years. I don't know how many years it is. You're going to let us know. What got you into becoming a digital entrepreneur or an entrepreneur in general?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this was roughly 15 years ago. Yeah, so this was roughly 15 years ago. I finished university. I have a day job, right? I actually landed what you could call my dream job, right? Back in the day. And the reason it was my dream job is because it was, everything that my parents taught me to be, right? As a dream job, it had it, right? I was getting, a nice salary. It was near my house. I was actually walking down the street to this, to this office. It was great, right? Had a great environment. It had a great everything, right? People will stay there for like 35 plus years. So it was, if you landed a job in that company, boom, you were set for life, right? And I came from that mentality. I grew up in a third world country. I'm originally from Argentina, from South America. And I grew up with that mentality, right? Like go to college, get good grades, get a job, and then go from there. So that was my goal up until then. And then within that company, I was doing really well. I had a good job. I had a cozy job and a comfortable job. But then I asked myself this question, right? I was like, all right, I'm 20 something right now. I live with my parents. I don't have kids. I have to, I just have this job and whatever I want to do next. And what would happen if I dedicate 10 years of my life to this specific job, right? At that point, I already had a couple of entrepreneurial tests in university, right? I had a couple of entrepreneurial tests in that day job as well. And I really liked it. I really like, being creative, doing things on my own. I really like not knowing, but figuring things out. I really like not having a boss, like being my own boss, all of those things. So I'm like, okay, this sounds great on paper, but what would happen if I stay here for 10 years straight? Like what could I aim towards? Well, maybe a middle management position, maybe something along those lines, right? We're talking about a company that people stay forever. So, there's not a lot of rotation for you to become a director like right away, right? You need to wait, you need to do a career within that company. So I'm like, okay, that sounds good. Now, what would happen if I do the same 10 years with the same amount of intensity and effort and hard work for my own stuff, right? And the answer was, well, the sky is the limit, right? So that was kind of the question that I asked myself to leave that day job. And that was a big surprise for my family, for my friends. It was a big surprise. But that was the question that led me to become an entrepreneur. I didn't know what I was going to do at the time, but that's how I left, without a net, without anything. Just, one day I just resigned and started doing my own thing. So.
Wow. And so obviously coming from your background, like most, I'll say millennials, because we're probably in the same age bracket, we were all sold like, hey, go to this company, work for this company, X number of years, you'll get a nice comfy job where you're not doing too much work, but getting a nice salary, have the white picket fence, the family member and all that. Yeah. But you went completely against that grain at I'm guessing a relatively young age, or only a few years into that path, and decided to say, hey, no, I'm going to do my own thing. What was the reaction to like from your immediate family and friends when you said you're leaving this job to start your own fantastical company.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, my friends were all like surprised. Family, I've been lucky enough that both my parents, my dad and my mom, they were always supportive of what I decided to do, but they didn't take it lightly, right? It was like, it's like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, are you sure you want to go on your own? Like, and the other answer to that was like, okay, well, I'm 20 something right now. I could get a job up to the age of 45, right? Or 40. Like, I still have 20 years to experiment. And if I fail at this, I can always go out there and get a job later, so that wasn't the issue. So, they kind of understood this mentality, and they were like, okay, well, figure it out. We're not going to sustain you. We're not going to maintain you. You're just living with us. You still need to pay for stuff here. You know that, right? And so if that's the case, then so be it. So that was the answer.
I like that. I like how your family was your family, your friends were surprised, obviously, because you're probably one of the first to decide, hey, I'm bucking the trend, which is always you're being a trailblazer in that regard. But I love how your parents were like, we'll support you, but just with a bed and a roof. Everything else you have to pay for. And I think that is kind of like, that's the best type of support you can get from your parents, because it takes the pressure off paying rent, paying utilities, paying for internet, paying all these things that a business needs, but also in today's day and age, you need as well to survive. So you had that support. Do you feel that kind of gave you a leg up?
So I think so. So I think they did it from the perspective of education, right? Like, they gave me everything that they could in terms of education at a really young age. They were really into MLMs and multi-level marketing and that type of companies and whatnot. They still had their own jobs, but they were entrepreneurial in their own sense, right? So I remember that I was at a really early age. My house was filled with these books like Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad, because they got these training and these books from these MLM companies that they were into, right? So there was a lot of training of mindset and sales and whatnot. I was like, I don't know, I was like 11 reading Think and Grow Rich, right? I was 11 and reading Dale Carnegie's book and whatnot. So I think that they gave me a leg up in that perspective and in that regard, like giving me a rich environment for me to soak all of that in. And then I would play video games. I wouldn't play like shooters. I would play like strategic games, right? Like that was kind of how I grew up. But then also, after making the decision of leaving the company, I think 3 to 4 months later, I left my parents' house. I went ahead and lived with a girlfriend. So at that point, the bed and the roof thing was gone. So I really had to crank things up a bit, because then I was living on my own. So, so I think that they gave me a leg up in terms of education, and then everything else, it was like, okay, now it's your responsibility to make it happen.
Oh, I love that. I love how you brought up the books, because one thing that I think MLMs, whatever your position on, whether they're good or bad, one of the things that I know they do really well is they provide a lot of the resources for self-improvement. Because you have, going into an MLM, whether it's the ones that actually work, the ones that don't, it doesn't matter. It's dependent on the person to make it work. And getting this self-improvement books like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is changing the mindset, or like you put Influenced by Cialdini, which is another amazing book that I just changes the way you perceive things when you start reading it. I think having that education is so important. Now, we're going to talk about ScaleDriven, which is your business. Was ScaleDriven the first entrepreneurial venture you did, or was there other businesses or that maybe litter the graveyard of your success, if you will?
Yeah, I was about to say that. No, ScaleDriven is like 3 years old maybe, but I've had a lot of different businesses and a lot of different partnerships, and many of them failed. Like, I would say, just a handful of them were actually successful, right? Most of them failed, because the reality is that when you're starting in your entrepreneurial journey, you don't know what you're doing, right? You're just testing things out. You're just trying things out. I had several agencies before ScaleDriven, and all of them failed, right? And then, I kind of realized that I was good at marketing. I was good at creating content. So I kind of went that way. But I think that my first, so if we back up from the moment that I I left my corporate job. I moved in with my girlfriend back at the time, and she had a regular job, but I didn't, right? So I came across this little website called Fiverr.com, right? Back in the day. Now, Fiverr.com, back in the day, is not the Fiverr.com that we know of right now. Back in the day, Fiverr.com was a rough bunch of people, just scrappy marketers trying to do stuff for $5. And I was there and I came across and I was like, oh, well, people are selling stuff on the internet to strangers, like services to strangers for $4. I'm like, okay, I need to give this a shot. So I created a gig and I started writing articles for people. So that was, quote unquote, one of my first entrepreneurial / freelancer careers, because I remember the first time that I had an actual breakthrough. Up to this point, every like cent or every dollar that I made came from a salary, right? It came from a salary up to that point. And then 6 months later, I was still like spinning my wheels. But I had this breakthrough when I sold my first article on Fiverr for $4, because Fiverr will charge $5, but they will take $1 out of the top. So I will get $4. And a complete stranger over the internet hired me to write an article for them, and they gave me $4. And that was like, wow, these things work, right? Like, it was, what's going on here, right? Somebody that I don't know just gave me money. And that's how I started writing articles. And that's how I was able to put money on the table, put food on the table rather, and heat up the house and whatnot. And that was, and I wasn't depending only on my girlfriend's salary. And and a couple of months later of doing this, I started like building a small team. So that was my first entrepreneurial gig, if you would, that all started with Fiverr. It's a content generation service, if you would. So
I like that. I like how you were like, you were scrappy, you tried to find it, you started with Fiverr. From Fiverr, what was the next kind of, let's say, big moment in your career? Because I don't want to touch on too much of the failures, because there's probably thousands of podcasts out there. I want to know, like, what was the next step that brought you to ScaleDriven? Like, was there another business that kind of popped but may have not been the success that you wanted it?
So yeah, that's a great question. So after Fiverr, as I was writing a lot of articles for people, then people will reach out to you outside of Fiverr to do some other stuff, right? And they'll try to hire you as a VA. So I would say yes, of course, and then try to, whatever they would ask me for, I would say yes, and then I would turn around and try to figure it out, right? So that was kind of my response to everything in life in general. It's like, yeah, we'll do it, and then try to figure it out. So I started being asked about, okay, you wrote this article, can you upload it to our WordPress website? And I'm like, sure. Can you now help us with SEO? Can you SEO optimize this article? And can you learn how to do SEO for us and do SEO? And that was kind of the next thing. So I started doing a lot of research when it comes to SEO. And I started, providing SEO services, because now we have the content thing, and now we started getting, pretty good at SEO and ranking websites and ranking the articles that we would write and whatnot. So we started producing and promoting that service, and we actually got a couple clients, just SEO clients, right? We from there on out, I think for the next like 3 years, I would dedicate myself to SEO, and that led to the first quote unquote agency, which was an SEO content / SEO agency. And that also led to another partnership that I had for almost 7 or 8 years, which was a lot of SEO agency owners. We got together and we put together a digital product, right? Teaching other people how to SEO optimize their website using really specific techniques and whatnot. So that was kind of my first big quote unquote company, because we launched that digital product based on all the knowledge that we had, and we launched that and we started promoting that, and that kind of put us in the map. That company was called Semantic Mastery, and that was my first like big company, and that that reached 7 figures. But we were selling information at that point on doing SEO and helping other agency owners, helping other people that wanted to SEO optimize their website with our courses or programs and all of that.
So that, first of all, that's huge, 7 figures for your business right away. But that was more of a collaborative effort of you and other agency owners coming together to pool your knowledge. That's insane that a collective could do that instead of being one person, because you always hear about like the one entrepreneur who made 7 figures, made 8 figures, made 9 figures. But here you have proof of a collective coming together, sharing their knowledge, because it's only benefits all of you in the long run, because you can say, hey, I built this, and or I was part of this this 7-figure or 6-figure business. So I love that. I'm definitely going to want to highlight how a collective made oodles of money for themselves and other businesses. Because I'm assuming, and I'm hoping this is assuming correctly, if you had made 7 figures in that business, the people you were helping obviously must have made the same amount or even more for them.
Yeah. So the way it worked is that, so I was offering SEO services, right? And then I joined a community. I joined a mastermind of other SEO agency owners, right? So I joined a mastermind, and out of those, 5 of us out of that mastermind, we kind of step away and started doing our own thing, and then we started producing content and products and whatnot. Our students had a ton of success with the stuff that we were teaching them, right? Most of them also agency owners, other freelancers, other entrepreneurs, other SEOs. They had a ton of success with our products, and that kind of put us in the map when it comes to one of the main sources of SEO teaching or SEO learning. If you had an agency and whatnot, you wanted to go there. You wanted to go buy semantic mastery products, become part of their mastermind and whatnot, because that allows us to, that allowed you to grow, bring more results to your clients and whatnot. So our clients had a lot of success with that, and our students.
So you go from content writing, very basic, very simple, to providing SEO services in your agency, to SEO teaching, in essence, if you will, to the agency owners. Now we're jumped to ScaleDriven. Like, was there, because I know ScaleDriven does more funnels and ads, which doesn't really deal with SEO. It can, but normally it's completely separate. So how did we get into the funnels and the ads? Like, was there another business in there, or was it just a client going like, I need someone to deal with my ads? Like, how did that jump happen?
Yeah, great question. So we had these digital products, right? We had these digital products that we put out, and now we needed to bring traffic to them, basically. So we, at that point, I learned how to build funnels, because we had to build the landing pages for the products. We had to build the card pages and all of the things for the products, and the email sequences for the products, like an actual digital product that you want to sell online. And then we need to get traffic to those landing pages. So I raise my hand and say, okay, well, I can start doing Facebook ads. I've never done Facebook ads before. This is like, 6-7 years ago. So I've never done Facebook ads before. I jumped into the platform, started learning, and started getting, can you hear me? Oh yeah. So started getting, good results for our our products and services, and the digital products that we were getting. We were getting leads. We were getting really good cost per calls and cost per acquisition for those products and whatnot. So that's when I'm like, okay, well, I like SEO, but man, ads are so much fun, right? And then I started diving deep into funnels and ads. And what happened in the meantime is that I was always being helpful. Like, any new thing that I was learning, from content writing to SEO to Facebook ads, I was always documenting and putting content out. I was always documenting and participating in Facebook groups and forums and communities, right? And teaching and helping other people how to do the same. And what happened is that one of the guys that I admired the most in the history of everything was Frank Kern. So Frank Kern, his team reached out to me. I was part of his community and actually helping other people with Facebook ads. And they reach out to me and they say, hey, do you want to come and run some ads for us? Right? So you, Hernan, do you want to come and run some ads for us? And then what happened is that I became Frank Kern's marketing director for 3.5 years after that, right? Because they brought me in to run all of their paid advertising campaigns. And I helped all of his students, with Facebook ads. And I gained a lot of insights when it comes to running ads for clients, building an agency when that was focused on ads and funnels specifically, right? And at that point, the company, the training company, was still doing SEO, but I kind of walked away to focus all in on paid traffic and funnels. And and after working with Frank, I went ahead and launched ScaleDriven, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, and it shows. When you start providing value to communities, certain people will notice that and reach out. Like, Frank Kern is the biggest name, I think, in marketing, next to like you're looking at Dan Kennedy. Like these are godfathers of the marketing world. So like having the opportunity to be at working with them and learning from them is like just like you growing up with all those personal development and sales books in young. It's an education that 10x is anybody else. So you launch ScaleDriven, which focuses on funnels and Facebook ads for your clients. And what type of clients do you normally go after?
So, as usual with entrepreneurship, you start with an idea and then you need to start pivoting and you need to start honing in that idea, right? And I realized that it was always my experience when it comes to running ads for something or building a business and whatnot. It was always around personal brands, information products, coaching programs, and that type of stuff, right? Like for Frank, that was the thing. It was like high ticket coaching programs and whatnot. For Semantic Mastery, it was low ticket programs, masterminds, and whatnot. So over the past like 3.5 years, we've been servicing mostly coaches, consultants, other service-based businesses, usually people that sell on the phone, that sell a high-ticket item, a high-ticket coaching program, or a training program, or a consulting program, or a service on the phone. So what we do at ScaleDriven is we put together their direct response machine, right? From the ads to the funnels to the emails, with the purpose of generating more leads, generating more qualified calls, generating more revenue to them by using paid direct response advertising. That's basically the gist, and that's who we're servicing. We still have a couple of e-commerce companies that come to us. They want us to run their ads. We have a couple of local brick and mortar businesses, but our focus is being personal brands, influencers, coaches, consultants, people that have a high ticket product, high ticket coaching program that they want to sell. They usually sell on the phone, and we deploy the entire machine for them.
No, I like that. It solves their problem, right? Because entrepreneurs, we're good at usually one thing, really good at one thing, and everything else kind of like they're okay. And obviously teaming up with other entrepreneurs as you grow as an entrepreneur, that it's easier just to outsource it because there's someone else who's better at it than you. Just like Frank Kern's team knew, hey, we can learn all this marketing stuff for Facebook ads, or we can go over to this guy who's giving amazing results for free and hire him to take care of it for us. And so, yeah, I love that because it's the only way we grow as entrepreneurs is working together. Like the famous quote says, a rising tide lifts all ships. And you are lifting other ships by handling something that they may not be able to handle. Or may not want to handle, because I know I don't want to deal with Facebook ads, because then there's like, okay, you have like the 14 different types of ads and how much ad spend into figuring out the demographics. And that's, for me, that's a huge waste of money because I don't know anything about it. Either I have to pay a course to learn, and I still need to learn because I have to have that experience. But if I can find someone like yourself who I can just go, here, this is what I need, how do we do it? And you take care of all of that. I think that saves so much time. Mm-hmm. And it gives the expertise to the expert who needs it. I want to go in a tip. I kind of want like 2 tips from you. And I hate to be greedy that way, but I think because you had that split where you had to decide, hey, I'm going to buck the trend and go on my own. I would love if you have maybe a piece of advice, maybe not a tip, but a piece of advice for people who are kind of like thinking about bucking the trend. What kind of advice could you give them so that they could maybe, taste what it's like to be an entrepreneur?
So I love that question because I remember that I left my day job. I started with this whole career, this entrepreneurial journey, and I didn't know where it was going to land and I'm still discovering day in and day out, right? We're all discovering it as we go. But one of the things that I noticed is that I looked around me and I saw my friends getting promoted at their jobs, right? And I saw my friends getting fancier and fancier cars and better houses, right? In better, nicer neighborhoods. And I saw my friends doing all of this. And I would say the first year and a half or the first 2 years of entrepreneurship, they were really hard because I was just struggling to make ends meet, right? I don't want to scare anyone, but it's something that I want you to be aware of because I think that entrepreneurship, it's great. It's so rewarding. if you go past that threshold, right? Because once you go past that invisible threshold, then your income does this, right? And I blew past my friend's income like a couple of years ago, right? And it, in many ways, but it was really hard for me to actually stomach that fact. Like I was always thinking about, oh, should I go back get a job? Should I go back get a job? Should I get back get a job? So that is something that will come up. But if you keep yourself on the forefront, if you keep learning, right? If you keep on providing value to others, then things will get accelerated. You just need to not give in, basically.
Just I'm always reminded when I hear, this is not the first time I heard that, hey, just keep in it and it will come, like those guesses, those second guesses and questioning yourself will happen. It's always that picture of the miner guy just giving up, and there's just like a millimeter of stuff behind wealth, and you have another guy going at it. And it's true. It's like, just go at it, give yourself, hey, like you said, I can support, I have 40 years in essence before I really need to retire, at like 60 is when most people retire. So you still have some time to work, 20 years. Bet on yourself for 10 years. What's the worst that's going to happen? You have that type of experience and you can still go back to the workforce and still be more valuable because of all the lessons you learned. You have a more real life experience that you can pass on to help the business. And I think that's the best way of looking about it, because jobs will always be there. 9 to 5s, I think, will never disappear because we have those multinational corporations. So you can always go and work for them. But now I want to talk about what you do specifically in the Facebook ads and the funnels. And I want to give a tip to some of the business owners out there that are listening, because we do have business owners and entrepreneurs. They may not be able to go straight to ScaleDriven and give you the money to handle it for them. But if they were going to concoct their first Facebook ad spread for a product, what kind of advice or tip would you have for them for their first Facebook ad experience?
So I'm a big proponent of being helpful, like creating goodwill, being helpful. And I think that one of the best things that you could do for your advertising is make your advertising as helpful as possible. Because if you think about it, your ads, your video ads, your copy, everything that you put on the ad, it will get the lion's share of the eyeballs that your business gets, right? For example, if you have an Instagram profile, putting stuff on Instagram, uploading stuff on Instagram organically, right? It will get so far. It will only get so many impressions and so many eyeballs. But when you're advertising on Instagram, you can multiply those eyeballs for, in the tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people that will see that ad. And that's like the first handshake. That's like, you want it to be firm. You want it to be, you want people to trust you, to like you, to know you. Just like, you were talking about influence by Cialdini. I think that's a great starting point. But what I always say is like the easiest way and also most cost-effective way to start advertising, especially on platforms like Facebook and Instagram, is to create short, helpful video ads, right? Like we're always telling these to our clients is, just whip out your phone, whip out your camera, create a 2-minute short, helpful video ad, and show that video ad to your ideal audience. Show that video ad. Don't forget to mention your name. Don't forget to mention your website. Don't forget to mention, your domain and whatnot. In fact, do it a couple times on the video ad. But just that one thing, just create a video, upload it to your Instagram profile, to your Facebook page, and boost that to your ideal demographic, to your ideal audience. If you do that consistently, you will get a bunch of clicks. People will want to visit your website, potentially, and even further if your content is helpful. And it's a really inexpensive way to start getting your feet wet, because you can get a lot of reach and a lot of awareness and a lot of eyeballs with, let's say, $5 a day or $2 a day. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, right? So that thing alone can help you a lot. And then for the guys that are a little bit more advanced into Facebook ads, you can grab people that are watching 50% of those videos, 75% of those videos, 95% of those videos, and you can show them ads to go to your website, So you're basically, you're basically putting together really good content, really helpful content, short, digestible content, mentioning your website a couple times and pushing that out there with the boost a post function or creating an engagement campaign or something like that. Show that to your ideal demographic and see what that does for your business over the next 30 to 60 days.
I can only imagine. I'm not going to lie. I'm probably going to start doing that. I'm going to probably do a film and just do $5 a day, see where that gets me. It's that's like $60 or like, no, $600. No, $150 a month.
$150 per month. Yeah.
Yeah, my math. As you can say, I'm not a math whiz. I'm a podcaster for a reason. I can look at how things go, multiplication, and that's not my thing. I'll leave that to the professional mathematicians out there. But Hernan, we're coming near to the end. I hate it, but we do need to wrap up here. So I'm going to get the Spark question of the show asked. For those that don't know, Spark is by Seek Discomfort, an amazing brand that believes strangers are just friends you haven't met yet. So let's spark some conversation with them. And I want to know, has a stranger ever made an impact on your life?
Yeah, I love it, because I remember one time and this was back in the day. I remember one time that I was taking the train right here in Buenos Aires. I was taking the train. I was coming back from downtown Buenos Aires to where I live. Huge train station, right? Huge, rush hour, tons of people walking everywhere and whatnot. So I was in line to get the train ticket to come back home. And I was there, and then there was this lady, this old lady. She was trying to get the change to give the change to the cashier so that she could get the ticket, and she was missing like 50 cents or something like that, right? And I was staying there. It was a huge line. It was a huge line. And this lady, she was struggling to get those 50 cents out of her pocket or her purse. So I grabbed 50 cents and I put them there, right? And then the lady looked at me kind of annoyed, right? She grabbed the thing and she grabbed the ticket and went away. And then the cashier was laughing at the whole situation. And she looked at me and said, the problem is that people are not used to this. They're not used to these random small act of kindness, And that stick with me. I'm like, you're right. Like, people are not used to it, but we should do more of that stuff. We should do more of that stuff, because I think that could change the day for the entire, that could change the day for somebody. I don't know if it changed the day for the lady, but it did change the day for the cashier. And that's a memory that I have about how somebody can change and make an impact in your life just by doing a small thing.
Oh, I love that. Like the well-intentioned, how I think you did change two people's life. Obviously, the immediate impact was the cashier, because she saw this act of kindness coming from you, someone who you're just like, it's 50 cents, it doesn't matter. Now, this old lady, she probably, in the moment, there's probably embarrassment, there's anger, there's all this going through, but probably later she'll realize, like, hey, no, this person helped me so that I didn't feel more embarrassed. Because I can tell you exactly, like, looking for that 50 cents when you need to pay and there's a giant line, you got that pressure, anxiety is all up on you. So you did help her, I can tell you that much. She may have not appreciated it at the beginning, but I guarantee you she did in the end run. Hernan, I'm going to jump off stage here. Please let my audience know how they can connect with you, how they can get some of your free stuff, and how they can work with ScaleDriven in the future.
Yeah, Hernan Vazquez everywhere, and all socials, YouTube, Instagram, whatnot. I have a YouTube channel with tons of content, so that's the best way to start. And then ScaleDriven.com if you want to check it out. If you like what you see on that page, then you can book a call there and see if we're a good fit. If not, there's a bunch of free content out there that we put out every single day. So that's how.
Excellent. Hernan, thank you again for coming on to the show and sharing your story and sharing some tips and tricks for my audience.
Thank you, man. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
And to my audience, as you know, like I say in every show, the show notes will have every single piece of link that you can get to connect with Hernan. Please do so. Make sure you check out the content. I've just been subscribed to his YouTube channel because I want more knowledge that I can pass off, pretending that I know stuff, and then I can say, no, you need to talk to this guy over here because he's the boss. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for listening, and remember to always invest in yourself.